Howdy folks, monthly update for the month of July, sitting here on the 4th of August 2024. Olympic Sevens has wrapped up. What's the impact that has had on our game, and in particular in the United States, I think. It's not just about that man Antoine Dupont. Also, Siya Kolisi's got a few rumours going about his future with Racing 92. TJ Perenara's future has been confirmed with him to be leaving NZ. Let's go through some stats and thanks for the month that was and talk about those news stories I just mentioned. But first of all, thank you so much for coming along. Appreciate you guys being here and being in this community. It is kind of what makes the channel what it is. For geographies for the month of July, South Africa 1, New Zealand 2, UK 3, Ireland 4, and Australia number 5. I like looking at the cities as well to see where you guys are from. Cape Town, Auckland, London, that's the London in the UK, Dublin and Sydney, the top 4 cities for those top 4 locations. But then my favourite city of the month, because I love seeing some cities I never heard of. I might have heard of this one before, I'm not sure. Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. That's quite a name. Just kind of long. It's almost like 3 names in one. Peter, Maritz, and Berg. There you go. You got to be pretty happy with that. What else have you guys been watching in the month of July? Apart from the kind of usual channels like the All Blacks channel, the Rugby Championship channel, which has got, some of the kind of highlights and whatnot from the July tests. In terms of independent content creators, the likes of Wildcard. You got to love that guy's rants if you haven't seen him. Kiwi Lads for your kind of live broadcast, likewise Forever Sports. Brendan Nell, always good for a few kind of press conferences and whatnot. And Tim for Egg Chasers. His channel is really ticking along well. If you didn't see his series where he visited South Africa, that was certainly worth a watch during the July month as well. And speaking of the July months, man, the biggest stories, apart from the Olympics, was certainly the South Africa against Ireland one. That was massive. Top 2 teams in the world going at it. And, it didn't really disappoint, did it? New Zealand from England, and England was up there as well. But, pretty massive stuff. Obviously, we have the Rugby Championship on the way. That's going to be a massive one. Tony and I from Distracted Sports will be... Tony from Distracted Sports and I will be talking some Rugby Championship soonish. If you haven't seen our latest episode where we talked about the Olympics and 2 cents against Distracted, I'll put a link up there. Head over to the latest episode and just leave a note with kind of 4 trophies. Tony will appreciate it, I am sure. Also, a quick thank you to the patrons. I'll scroll their names up here on this list of glory, especially to Angus and Jack McHugh. These guys help keep the channel afloat, do weekly updates on there, kind of Super Brew updates. Some of the competitions I've been picking all right. The July tests I didn't pick all that well, to be fair. And odd bit of kind of extra stuff, like we did a video there about the kind of weights of the different packs in the international game in 2024, which was a kind of interesting one. The French ended up having the beefiest pack on average that we've seen thus far, as a kind of wee spoiler for you. But more than the South Africans. I talked about some rugby news, the Olympics and what the kind of impact it's had. I'm not usually that much of a sevens guy, as you guys probably know, but I did get into the sevens during this period. It kind of helped that it didn't really clash with a lot of other rugby on, so it was kind of in this nice little window on its own. The men's game was obviously the story about Antoine Dupont, his mission to get a gold. Does it make up for a World Cup? Is he the GOAT? That's kind of been a discussion. Yes, he's the greatest player of all time. How many guys win Olympic gold and prop up a team like he does at times, and then other people, he's never even toured New Zealand or South Africa or Australia, so how can he call himself the GOAT? Whatever you feel like, it was certainly a bit of a fairy tale story for the French public and for Antoine Dupont. And then in the women's, the New Zealand girls going back-to-back was big news here in New Zealand. But, Alona Ma, her story, and the Americans getting bronze, I certainly think has done the rugby kind of news cycle a bit of a boost in America. Like this weekend, and why I've got this jersey on, the New England Free Jacks, is because the MLR final is on this weekend. They are playing the Seattle Seawolves, whose jersey is also hanging back up there. Defending champion Free Jacks up against the Seawolves. I haven't seen any of the MLR this season, sadly, but hopefully the fact that the Olympics has been in the news with the rugby. The final's on this weekend. It's on at Snapdragon Stadium. That's the same stadium where the All Blacks played Fiji just a few weeks ago. hopefully this kind of gets a bit of a trickle-down effect. It's always hard to kind of gauge how many people go from watching the Olympics to that one moment before it kind of gets forgotten in the next news cycle to the kind of small percentage who actually, buy into the sport. But fingers crossed, there is that kind of trickle-down effect. Hopefully the MLR final is a good game, a good, attractive game. That'll certainly help get a bit of buy-in for some fans who are maybe just getting into their rugby into the States. You can see the likes of Leroux Milan playing in that game, the Namibian who had that horror injury against the All Blacks in the World Cup. And then remember Tony Pulu, who used to play for the Chiefs and the Brumbies, I think? Was it the Force? He's playing over there for the Seawolves. So there's still a few familiar names in those squads as well. Speaking of familiar names, Siya Kolisi, not had the kind of easiest time of things over at Racing 92. There had been some rumours that South African Rugby were going to fork out like, how many million rand was it? Like 17 million rand, like not that far away from €1 million to buy out his contract and bring him back to the Sharks. But South African Rugby has kind of rubbished that claim. I don't think it would be the wisest use of South African Rugby resources to buy out an individual player from his contract if he's not happy. I think that money could be better invested elsewhere. Personally, even if he is kind of your legendary double World Cup winning captain, if he signs the contract with the team, he's kind of personally obligated to serve out that contract. You never know, you can get released. I seem to remember Julian Savea got released from his contract with Toulon years ago, but I can't remember if his contract was up or if that was just because the season was disrupted by COVID. But I remember his French club was not particularly happy with how he was doing over at Toulon, so stranger things have happened. But we'll see. We'll see if he ends up coming back or if he gets released or if he gets terminated or if he just kind of plays another season with Racing. And then TJ Perenara gets his way back into the All Blacks. And now he's leaving. This is going to be his final season in New Zealand Rugby, 32 years old. You could say it's a kind of fitting time to go. He did kind of allude to the fact that he's not been offered a longer-term deal from New Zealand Rugby yet, so that was part of his decision to go, because I think he signed a 3-year deal with the Black Rams over in Tokyo, so it kind of makes sense if you want to extend your playing career as long as you can and make a few bucks before you decide to retire. And plus, we are not exactly lacking for halfbacks at the moment here in NZ. Cam Roigard will be coming back from injury anytime soon. You got Ratama, who's looked pretty good into his kind of first All Blacks campaign. Hotham has beat out Finlay Christie for an All Black spot. Fakatava can't even make the squad. So, yeah, I think he did say if the All Blacks had kind of, New Zealand Rugby had put a longer term contract on the table, it would have given him more to think about. But he may still have ended up going anyway. So, yeah. You guys let us know your thoughts. What impact do you think the Olympics has had on rugby? As I said, I'm kind of hoping it is a positive one, especially in non-traditional markets like the US. I certainly have been getting asked about rugby from random people who don't usually talk to me about rugby, especially any Chinese friends of mine who are like, man, did you know the New Zealand girls played China at rugby? Yes, I do know that. That was a thing. So fingers crossed the rugby goodness via the sevens can kind of get its tendrils out into a few more markets. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for coming along this month, for liking, subscribing, commenting, watching, all that jazz. You guys take care of yourselves, and yes, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.